The universe is incomprehensibly amazing. Ever since I was a kid, I've been fascinated by the universe and captivated by the word why. The earliest I can remember was when I was about 10 years old. I was sitting outside with my friends. We were looking up at the stars on one summer night. Why? I wondered. I wondered why I was here. I was scared. I wondered what would happen if I stopped existing, if there was no experience. What would happen to me after my life ended? Everything would just go black. Or white, I thought. But would it? Because even light and darkness is something. Maybe there'd be nothingness. But what would that look like? What would that feel like? I thought about all of the activities and all of the things I loved and how they'd all just go away. I wouldn't get to see or do them anymore. And then I realized not just that they'd be gone, but there wouldn't even be a trace. It would be like they had never existed. There would be no concept of anything. Not even a concept of a concept. Just nothing. Growing up, I was not religious at all. I didn't grow up in a religious house. In fact, I thought so lowly of religion that if somebody had have told me they were religious when I was younger, I saw them differently. I lost respect for them. Now, the problem with anything spiritual is we can prove using math for things to be true to an extent, but we can't prove that spirituality or religious ideas, we can't prove that they are the answer. We can't prove that that is correct. You know, I can take this bug spray and throw it up in the air, and using math, I can prove that it happened, but I can't prove that it's a spiritual phenomenon. And this is why I thought it was crazy, because growing up, I was very rooted in science and math. I liked science in school. Like, science was my shit. If I couldn't see it, I couldn't believe it. I refused to believe any of that stuff was true. Like I said, science always intrigued me. I liked math, I liked science class throughout school, and being able to prove something felt addicting to me. I loved to get a correct answer when trying to solve a problem. Unlike many other subjects in school, English, the arts, everything like that, science and math, they were not subjective, you know. There was never an answer that was debatable. It was always, here's your answer, here's the proof. And I liked that. When I was finishing high school, I found myself at a strange point in my life, as I'm sure a lot of people out there do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I felt pressured to attend university, so I did. And I chose to go into something science-based, as I felt like math and science were the only two real things the world had to offer. And I figured I could get a good job, so I majored in physics, I minored in math, and I spent 4 good years going through my degree. The longer into my physics degree, I began to realize a few things. 1. I really did not enjoy doing math anymore. 2. I enjoyed the topics more than the actual math itself. And 3. That math and physics were not really what I thought they were. There's a fundamental issue with physics and math. Science is based on theories, and everything is proven to an extent, but nothing can be fully proven. My professors often joked about, well, you know, maybe one day that'll change, or, well, we don't really know for sure. And this is the problem with math and physics, is nothing can be proven. No matter how hard we try, no matter what kind of instruments we use, we cannot fully prove anything by using just math. And my professors would talk about this stuff all the time. This was not some secret. This was common knowledge in the physics community. So this kind of shattered my perspective on things. And then I came to my second conclusion, which was that the only thing that holds truth, the only thing that is fully 100% true in this universe is that nothing will ever be or can ever be proven to be true. Well, we can see a ball and measure a ball. As its particles become smaller and smaller, measuring becomes more and more inaccurate. Our understanding on the quantum level is halted, almost as if we were never meant to fully understand. You may say, well, Loganator, as technology advances, so does our understanding. You would be correct, but there is one thing you may be forgetting. Let me introduce you to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which states that it is impossible to know both the position and the momentum of a particle with perfect accuracy at the same time. This basically says the faster an object is moving, the less we know where it is, and if we know exactly where it is, well, we don't really know how fast it's going. Usain Bolt, fastest human alive, recorded a top speed of 10.44 meters per second during his world record run. The speed of sound is measured to be 343 meters per second. And finally, the speed of light is measured to be 299,792,458 meters per second. So, if I take a bigger object like a soccer ball, we can know its speed, we can know its position. But if I go smaller, go down way to the individual little particles inside that soccer ball, the particles, they move way too fast. We just don't know where they are. Learning that your entire perspective on something has changed, and for me it was the basis of science and math. It really shatters your world. It kind of brings you down to the ground and flattens you out. And then you think to yourself, nothing that I thought was true is true. I was fighting this whole spiritual religious path. Things were pulling me in. I was like, nah, that's not me. I'm not crazy. And then one day it just clicked. It clicked in my head. I was like, holy balls, dude. And what clicked was this. I realized that my entire life I had been thinking and assuming, religion is crazy, spirituality is crazy, all these stories, they're coincidences. This is all just nuts. Because I can't see it, I can't prove it. But didn't I just learn during my physics degree that nothing can be fully proven with math? Didn't I just hear from my professors for years that, well, this is all just a theory, and we can't actually look that deep. We can't actually get there. Wait a second. I'm basing my whole belief system on the fact that I can't see it, when I just learned that sometimes you can't. Sometimes we cannot prove it. And then everything changed. Maybe Heisenberg, he was smoking the good stuff. Let's just give this the benefit of the doubt. Maybe we can prove this wrong, right? Well, they did something called the double slit experiment, and if you don't know about the double slit experiment, here's the gist of the double slit experiment. So, on the left we have a light source, in the middle we have our two slits, and we have a screen on the right. Particles are shot from the light source through the slits onto the screen. As the screen shows us where the particles hit, the particles, after being shot through the slits, created a pattern on the screen. This pattern mimics that of a wave-like interference. Here we have a positive wave and a negative wave, and they are going to combine and cancel each other out. On the other hand, if you have two positive waves, they're going to combine and create an even bigger positive wave, and vice versa for the negative. So scientists assumed at the time, okay, so the particles are going through the slits and they're interfering with each other like waves. If we go back to our experiment and zoom in, we see that the waves look something like this after the particles come through the slit. And if we put both of these together from both slits, we can see that the waves are forming interference patterns. This is shown on our screen. The most particles are hitting in the center. So scientists assumed, well, light must travel in waves. So what the scientists did is they fired one particle at a time. And you would think, if by firing one particle at a time, it can't possibly go through both slits, it's one particle, right? Well, they found the same wave pattern firing one particle at a time, which makes no sense, because if the particle goes through the slit and creates this wave, the reason it appears on the screen as these bars is because it's interfering with the other particles. The other waves are hitting one another. So they thought, well, we'll be real smart and we will put a little camera, a little detector that's going to tell us which slit the particle is going through. They set the detector up and started firing the particles through the slits once again. Except this time, they found something very weird. The light now behaved like particles, not waves, which means they went straight through the slits onto the back of the screen. No interference was recorded. Now everyone was hella confused. Nobody knew what was going on, so they thought, well, maybe something from the detector, interfered with the particles. So finally they ran the experiment one more time and they decided to turn off the detector. Lo and behold, the particles acted like waves once again. This is what we now call the observer effect. Eventually, once we get to that level, that small, tiny, minuscule quantum level, if we somehow try to observe the particles there, they will change their behavior, which means we will never, ever be able to get an accurate measurement of particles at that level, because we just proved that they can be changed just by the fact that we are observing them. I like to think that all of these particles, they attend quantum high. They learn the ways in which they can deceive us. I started to do some research. A lot of famous physicists were religious. A lot of brilliant people of our generation were spiritual, religious. If all these people could accept that there was more, that there was something unseen, that there was something more to this planet, to this universe than physical science, why couldn't I? Being open to things means to let go of the need to know. To let go of your ego for just a second, just enough that you can accept to be wrong, that you can accept to not have all the answers. And for a very long time, I could never do that. I had to be right. I had to think that I had the correct way of thinking about how the world worked. And eventually I realized that there's more to that. There's other ways, there's other things that we can't understand yet. And being open, this is a metaphor for everything in your life. It was a metaphor for everything in my life. My opinion on people changed, my opinion on music changed, my opinion on myself changed, on loving changed, on money changed, on where I wanted to live changed. Everything changed. You should accept that you can't always be right. So I ask you, now, with this in mind, what is it in your life that has been just begging you, just trying so hard to come out, to get you to acknowledge it, but you just haven't acknowledged it yet? You're kind of aware of it, but you just been pushing it back deeper inside of you. What is that thing? Are you open to it?